Welcome to another edition of Sound Advice. And in this edition of Sound Advice, what we're going to be getting into is getting a understanding of what an EQ, uh, what your stock EQ, what is it all about, to what a third party EQ and what it's all about. And normally, if you didn't know, normally your stock EQs are transparent EQs, meaning that they don't do anything to the signal. It goes in clean and it comes out clean. Whereas with third party plugins, you may have an EQ where it goes in clean, but it can come out a little gritty or with some added tone to it to make it sound more interesting. So that's what we're going to get into. That's what we're going to look at today. And if you haven't yet, please go check out my website. It's called soundadvice4u.com. That's soundadvice4u.com. And on my channel, what I have is I have I do where you can get my mixing and mastering services, and also I do have free music for you to be able to download from my website. So please feel free to check out soundadvice4u.com. Now, with that being said, let's get into my DAW and let's gain an understanding of what your plugins that come with your DAW to the plugins that you purchase after you have your DAW. Now that we have an understanding of what we got the definition of what an EQ is, and we have an understanding of the purpose of the EQ. Let's look at some EQs. And the first one I want to start off with is the EQ that comes with Persona Studio One. And all DAWs, Pro Tools, Logic, Cubase, whatever DAW you use, all DAWs have their EQ that comes stock. Okay, so that's when if you ever been confused about somebody saying stock plugins or whatever to third party plugins, this is your stock plugin. Okay, now a third party plugin would be this Waves plugin. Okay, this did not come stock. I had to buy this plugin. Okay, so it's a third party plugin that's by Waves. Now, the functionality of these two plugins are the same, but I don't want to jump into that right now. What I want to jump into is how they sound, and how these sound they're transparent. They're transparent sounding, okay? Which means that these plugins do not add any color to the signal, okay? What goes in them, that's what comes out of them. Okay, so if I boost this at 3 dB at 110 hertz, whatever was recorded from the preamp, that's what I'm going to get is the same. It's not going to change the signal in any kind of way. Okay, it's just going to be clean sounding. And this same thing with this EQ is just clean sounding. Okay, now, are these bad plugins to use? No, they're great plugins to use. But it's what are you going for? What are you listening for? Because if you're listening for some different kind of tone, well, these plugins are not going to help with that. But if you like the tone that's already coming off the preamp and you don't want to mess with it, well, these are the plugins you want to mess with because it's going to keep the signal clean. Okay, so they have a purpose. All right, and depending on how you want to
use that purpose is on you. How you use your transparent EQs in your workflow, that's on you how you use that. Okay? But these are very good EQs to use. All right? Either one. Okay? Now, let's look at some EQs that do have some color to them. Or I'm sorry, I'm saying color. Some tone to them. Okay? And we have the Pultec from Universal Audio, and we have two EQs from Slate Digital, which is a Neve and a SSL copy of those hardwares. So this is a copy which they're going to have different tones to them, because with this Pultec, the Pultec, it has transistors and tubes. Okay? They modeled the Pultec that had transistors and tubes. So you're going to get some type of tone coming off of the signal. Okay? So say if the bass guitar was recorded through a DI box and it was recorded clean. Okay? And so you could use the Pultec to get some tones to come out of the bass to have it sounding less clean. Okay? The same thing with these. Now, these two plugins, I'm pretty sure, I'm not exact, but I'm pretty sure they don't use tubes, but they do have transistors that are in them. So when you run the signal through either one of these two, you're going to get a different tone, because the tones that the SSL the transistors that the SSL use is different from the transistors that the Neve use. Okay? So you're going to get something different. Okay? So when you boost 100, say you got 100 hertz boosted at 3 dB, 100 hertz boosted at 3 dB, and 100 hertz boosted at 3 dB on all the three of these plugins. When you listen to it on the sound source, when you're listening to it, it's going to sound different on each one of these. Okay? You're just by putting this on without turning any knobs, you're going to change the tone a little bit of the sound just by not even turning anything. Okay? So these are, yes, third-party plugins, but these are third-party plugins that are modeled after hardware gear. Some of this is a very iconic piece of hardware that Universal advertised, that's been heard on millions of records. Okay, and now we can have that sound in our studio. Okay, so take that for what it's worth. But what I do know is that it do have a tone to it that I like, and I use it a lot. Okay, and these two have a tone, but I don't use these as much. These don't get put in my workflow as much, but I have had to use them, and it gave me what I needed, because this just didn't work for the mix. So I had to go to some other ones that had different tones to see if that would help with the mix. Okay, so now that we're getting all of this understanding, and it's not to look for what is the best EQ, but it's just understanding when you go and buy an EQ, just have an understanding of what you're buying, because they're all going to do, the purpose is all the same. We just covered that. The EQ purpose is for clarity, and you're going to get clarity because this is an EQ. Okay? But how you use it, now that's something totally different. but the purpose is all the same. So no matter if it's a transparent EQ that don't do anything to the signal, to an EQ that does add some tone to the signal, at the end of the day, their purpose is for clarity. And that's what you need to understand is when you start buying or using your EQs. Okay? Because there's not a bad EQ. You know, you got the ones that do the gear, and they'll say, "Oh, this is snake oil. This ain't the real deal," which it may be true. Okay, but what I want you to understand, what I'm going to be hammering home is, if the tones sound good, it's good. No matter what anybody say, if you like the tone, run with it. That's it. And that's all that I'm trying to give you is the difference in what you're going to get. But everything has a purpose. But you have to know what purpose you're using it for. That's it. But at the end of the day, any EQ, all it's for is clarity. Until you start trying to do some effects stuff with it.
Okay, welcome back. And I guess, I hope that we have a better understanding now about a EQ that is transparent to an EQ that may have some tone to it. That we cleared that up, and it's no wrong way of which one to use. It's just that what helps the signal to, which help the signal to sound better, and then overall that it sound better in the mix. So this is just another to gain another understanding of that end goal of where you're trying to go to with your mix. And sometimes you may need, for that end goal to be, you may need a transparent EQ, or for the end goal you may need that EQ that have some tones to it. So either way, it's up to you and what you hear. So always remember, it's all about what you hear and does it sound pleasing to you. So with all that being said, I just want to remind you once again, check out my website, soundadvice4u.com. And on my website, I have my mixing and mastering services, and also I have free music for you to download. So please go check out the website. That's soundadvice4u.com. And with all that being said, this is Sound Advice. My name is Jeff McKenzie, and I'll see you on the next one.